Hey, we're working through chess.com's intermediate level chess bots, and next up is Aziz. So I've already done 3 that are rated 1000. Aziz is now rated 1100, so we are moving up. Okay, so I'm going to choose him and let's start the game. So the description of this bot is that he likes to think for himself, and he's certainly got a crazy face, so maybe we should expect the unexpected. So what are we going to do? I'm going to start with pawn to c4, the English opening, which I've never played in my life as far as I know. And g5. Well, okay. Let's play d4 and grab the center. So I've now got some nice center control on the queen side, and I'll put my knight there. Whenever you move either the c pawn or the f pawn forward to get your knight behind there, kind of makes sense. And a6. I notice my bishop is already looking at this pawn, so maybe... Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. I did not mean to do that. Okay. Well, I was going to say, if I bring my knight out, then I'm going to have 2 pieces attacking this pawn. But now if he pushes, I'd have to move my knight out of the way. I can't take with that pawn because... oh, I can actually. I can potentially. Anyway, so he's pinned my knight against the king, and let's break the pin with bishop to d2. Okay, now a pawn move. He could be in a situation where his bishop gets trapped here. I think I wouldn't mind taking his bishop off the board this early in the game, so I'm going to play a3. Bishop's on the long diagonal, which is okay, and I'm going to recapture with the bishop. So his bishop's looking down at g2, and now his bishop's moved again. This seems to be a theme with some of these bots at this level. Alright, I'm going to push e3 now. I can't. Can I push e4? No, bishop will just capture. I'm going to push e3 so that maybe I can move my knight to f3, where it's now defended by the queen. So if bishop captures, I'm okay. Oh, wow. He's making an awful lot of pawn moves. And obviously the risk of this is that his king might be vulnerable. So he's moved both of these already. So castling kingside is now looking precarious, at the least. I have e5 available for my knight at some point, maybe not immediately. My light squared bishop still needs to come out into the board, so maybe bishop to d3 looks good. Let's play the bishop out. E2 or d3. I think maybe e2 for now. So it just defends my knight another time. Okay, now he's moved his kingside rook, which means that castling kingside is no longer an option. So if he's going to castle, which he doesn't seem to be too keen on doing, then it's going to be queenside. So I'm liking the look of b4, just really shoring up this massive pawn pyramid that I've got going on here. I like the look of that move. I'm just going to play that. Means my dark squared bishop is now looking a little bit trapped, but I'll be thinking about a pawn break with e4 at some point. Now, right now it doesn't make sense. I'm just going to castle now. I want to get a rook behind that e-pawn before I think about pushing it forward. So now maybe it's looking like bishop to d3 would have been preferable. I wasn't really thinking about the e-pawn push, but you can see this is now starting to look very interesting indeed. It kicks the bishop away, then it could kick the knight away on 2 moves, gaining a load of space. So I'm going to put my rook there. I'll probably move my bishop then to d3. Yep, and he's moved his queen. Okay, so now e4 is defended by bishop and rook if I push the pawn forward. So it doesn't make sense for him to capture. So that bishop's going to have to retreat. Okay, there we go. Now do I want to continue and hit the knight with a pawn, or maybe d5? Is it a good time to play d5? d5 is he comes with a discovery on the knight. And the knight can't move because the rook's behind it. So that's pretty cool. Let's go and do that. So now we're really, really punching through on here. Okay. Right, I can capture the knight with a threat against the rook. So let's say I capture the knight and he moves his rook forwards and attacks my bishop. I can simply move the bishop back. This bishop's now become a lot stronger, you see, with these pawns moving forwards, opens up this diagonal. So the bishop's a nice piece now. Or I could simply move my knight out of the way at this point, say h2, putting it in a defensive role, or I could just capture the pawn. So what happens if I capture the pawn? Rook takes maybe, and then I win the knight. If knight takes, I win the rook. I've got to do something. Bishop takes knight, pawn takes knight, g3. I think that looks okay. I'm attacking the rook anyway, so... Whoa, okay. Now if I get the rook queen there, there's a serious threat of checkmate on g2, but I can defend it because I've got queen takes f3. I'm pretty happy now. Happy with that. So we are up in material. I'm up a pawn and an exchange. Okay, the queen can't dive into there. There's no support. Now, it would be principled now to capture pawns and to try and break open the centre because the king hasn't moved. So I think d takes e6 looks absolutely fine. I can't see an immediate attacking opportunity. So I think messing up his pawns, using my advantage here, it just looks good. He's got a very bad rook there. His knight is undeveloped. This bishop is doing very little right now, but moving this pawn would invite his bishop into the game. Am I concerned about e takes d5? I recapture, then he can recapture. Let's take the pawn. I like the fact that we've got queen and knight and king, sorry, on the same file as my rook, so that makes me happy. The obvious move now, the natural move, seems to be rook to d1, putting it on the open file. It's the only open file on the board. Let's play that. I need to kind of reactivate my light squared bishop as well, because it's currently a bit stuck where it is there. I'm going to play queen to g3. I think if he swaps off queens, that's okay for me. Okay, right. So now I'm going to push my pawn to create options for my bishop. Alright, so now, how are my pieces doing? I think we're doing alright. So I need to think about my attack. And one idea is maybe to do a rook lift. So like this maybe, bringing my rook around, maybe target f7. That's an idea. Because being, well, basically an exchange and a pawn up, so that's the equivalent of a minor piece. It's a significant advantage. Should be meaningful advantage. But I just need to secure it. Okay, I'm going to move my bishop to e4. So it's controlling this diagonal, which means that that rook now has nowhere at all to go. I could even put my queen behind it now. I could also simply move my queen over to d3 with the threat of capturing his bishop. Let's do that. It's a significant threat that if the bishop moves, okay, right. So now he's pinned his own bishop by moving the king behind it, and then I can simply push my pawn forward and attack the bishop, because the bishop can't move. Right, that was pretty crazy. So yeah, he said he was a kind of a random player. These bots are turning out a lot more interesting than your typical computer kind of mentality. I think the rook is now almost trapped. Yeah, the rook is trapped. So now I can grab the rook, free rook. Okay, where do I checkmate? If I can get my queen to there and then there, that would be really cool. How do I do it? Okay, here he doesn't have a check, so I don't know how he's going to stop that attack. Right, so now maybe just queen back to here, because the knight's pinned itself again, and I don't think his queen can defend, so there we go, the knight falls, queen's protected there by the rook. Okay, I've got a check there. Now if he moves to here, which he must, I can force an exchange of queens. That's what he should do. There we go. Even though I'm giving up a pawn, I'm doing what I need to do to see the game out. Right? Very often it just makes sense, even if it means giving up some material, if you can assure yourself of a winning position where you really can't lose, that's what it's all about. Okay, I can put my rook there, it's defended twice. Okay, the pawn is not a worry, bishop just snaps that up. Okay, and it looks like Aziz is now firmly on the ropes. I can go here, attack, double attack on that pawn. Okay, let's just stick my rook here. He can move to there. Let's defend with the pawn. And that king is now really running out of squares. Let's grab another pawn. If he takes, I recapture. And it's game over. Well, it's gonna be. Could move my bishop to here with check. No, I can't now. Let's move the pawn forwards. Now this rook and the bishop are now totally secure. The king can't do anything. I'm not even going to start messing around taking off these pawns. I'm just going to get a queen on the board. Let's throw in a check. Okay, and now I can definitely queen, because the king can't get into the pawn's square. Don't worry about the bishop. Bishop's not an issue here. Just checking now that there's no stalemate, but no, he's got plenty of squares he can go to. And now he's still got a square, he can go there. So let's do a discovered check. Get my bishop out of the way. Discovered check. He's got to go back onto the 7th rank. I can play my rook to there now, and he's got to stay on the 7th rank. And now it's a formality. Nice checkmate. Okay, so what do we have in with Aziz? We've got another crazy player, a bit like Hans from Greenland, if you've tried him out yet. So maybe it's slightly stronger than Hans, potentially, but same old story with these bots. You know, these bots with personalities. This guy's another one of those crazy random players. So if you need practice playing against the unpredictable, and you find yourself flummoxed by weird looking moves and not knowing how to respond, Hans and Aziz seem to be good bots to practice against. So there you go. Wasn't much of a challenge in the end. But yeah, definitely a lot of fun. So yeah, enjoy playing against this guy, and play good chess, and you should be victorious. So that's all I've got to say. Okay, there you go. Thanks, Aziz, for the game. Much appreciated. I'll see you soon.